Hey guys, welcome back to Project Bodybuilding. Today I'm bringing you my recap of this weekend's show, the 2024 Toronto Pro Super Show. This turned out to be quite the interesting show to say the least, so in case you missed it or just need the lowdown on everything that happened across all the men's divisions, I've got you covered. I'll give you the top 5 and the main stories heading out of the men's physique, classic, 212, and men's open divisions. That's really all I have to say for this intro, so let's go ahead and jump into today's video. If you guys like these types of videos, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more. Let's start with men's physique. I don't have too much to say here as per usual when it comes to this division, but that's not going to stop me from going through the top 5. In 5th was Mathieu Ballerini. In 4th, Tyler Smith. 3rd, Kamani Victor. 2nd, Chevy Phillips. And winning the 2024 Toronto Pro Super Show men's physique division was Drew Cullen. Congrats to the full top 5 of the men's physique division, and a special congratulations to Drew Cullen on his Toronto Pro title. Now let's jump over to the 212 division. I do briefly want to mention two names that were not in the top 5. Lucas Garcia landed in 8th, and I'm just going to say that was slightly sus. And just outside the top 5, missing that by just 1 point, was Cody Drobot. Fantastic shape on this guy, and if it was up to me, I probably would have had him in the top 5. But rounding out your actual top 5 was 5th, Ricardo Correa. This guy also won the Masters 212 division. In 4th was Marco Sarcone. In 3rd was Hussein Kalate. And coming in at the runner-up spot was Esteban Fuquini. Plenty of fans had this guy in 2nd, but plenty of them also had him in 1st. And I do think it was very close. Esteban and the first place guy traded off in different areas, and even though I'm a big fan of the guy who got 1st, I thought Esteban definitely had a chance to pull it off. But the judges thought differently. Esteban got straight 2nd place scores. And coming in at 1st place in the 212 division was Giuseppe Christian Zagarella. This guy is my new favorite 212 competitor. He did well at the New York Pro, that was his 2nd 212 Pro show, and this weekend he won his 3rd 212 show ever and punched his first ticket to the Mr. Olympia. This guy has incredible shape, and that's why I'm such a fan. He has some pretty good body parts, mainly the quads. Once this guy thickens up the back primarily and grows the entire upper body overall to match the legs, he will do extremely well at the Olympia level. I've got my eye on this guy even heading into this year's contest. Congrats to Christian and the rest of the 212 division. We had yet another stacked 212 lineup. Moving on to classic, let's get straight into the top 5. Starting with 5th, Jeremy Serrard. Then in 4th, we had Andrea Momoli. In 3rd, we had German Pastor. And 2nd was Blake Corse. And winning the Classic Physique division at the 2024 Toronto Pro was Niall Darwin. Now, I don't have a lot to say about the Classic division as a whole, but I do have to talk about this guy. You may think that these pics and vids I'm putting up are photoshopped after looking at this guy's waist, but nope, this is an actual human with an actual V-taper like this. I haven't seen anything like this V-taper except Brian Buchanan. And no, I'm not joking. I legitimately have not seen a V-taper like that guy's until this show. Now this guy still needs some more mass, primarily in the upper body, and then after that he is off to the races to do some major damage. A structure like this doesn't even come across the bodybuilding stage frequently, let alone this planet. He could use some filling out, and he definitely should have the room, both weight cap wise, and even if the waist got a bit bigger. If he's more filled out everywhere, he gets to be bigger and keep similar proportions, so it's a win-win. I'm definitely keeping a lookout for this guy in the future. Anyway, congrats to the Classic Top 5, and to Niall for punching his first Olympia ticket. And finally, it's time for the main event, the men's open bodybuilding division. Before I get into the top 5, I do want to talk about one guy who was slated to win the show, or at least do really well. I predicted him to win, and I thought he was at least getting 2nd, no lower. But he ended up only getting 6th. And that means I am of course talking about Hassan Mustafa. Hassan was basically Hassan, he was off. This still was probably a little more off than he usually is when he botches a prep / peak, but it's more or less the same old story here. This is great conditioning for a guest posing, but for show day, this ain't it. And his placing was reflective of that. 6th is not at all where he should be placing. He was 2nd at this show last year, 2nd in Orlando, and then won the Vancouver Pro last year. Then he went on to place 11th at the Mr. Olympia. Needless to say, he should not be placing this low, but he knows what he needs to do. At least I think so. We all know and we all say it after just about every single Hassan showing, outside of a couple times in 2022. But after that year, he just hasn't cracked his code and nailed his conditioning. Now let's break into your actual top 5, starting with Tim Budesheim. He finally got his due at this show, landing just outside the top 5. I feel that Tim was really getting overlooked, and I think he placed a little lower than he should have at both the New York and Cali Pros earlier this year. But he finally got that top 5 finish here in Toronto, and he can thank that grainy conditioning for that. That's definitely why he beat Hassan. Tim may be really thickly developed and dense from the front, but the back, the rear double specifically, needs to come up, and the shape isn't the best, although I think it's fine. But objectively, Tim's shape was better than Hassan, and the conditioning wasn't even close. I like Tim's physique, and I'm glad he finally got a better placing. He did his homework when others didn't, and it paid off. In fourth was Robin Strand. Robin is a friend of the channel and I'm happy to see him do well. A lot of people were sleeping on Robin, but he brute forced his way up into that top 5. He was one of the most conditioned athletes there, if not the most conditioned athlete. He also had at least the second best back in the top 5, and that meant a lot in a lineup like this. He did have some good things going for him despite his lacking shape. He just had those undeniable factors. Again, not the best shape, but you can't argue with that condition and some of those body parts. And taking the bronze medal was John Jewett. This is John's second open pro show, and he's definitely moving up in the division. He has a smaller structure, but he's putting in the work and packing on the size. He was definitely the most complete guy up there head to toe, balanced from top to bottom and back to front. He brought great conditioning as well. Next to Robin, these guys are making some of the other guys look soft. This was also a pretty good placing for John, and honestly from what I saw, I firmly believe he should have placed second. Like I said, he was the most complete and had the best or almost the best conditioning. His shape and the level of size really aren't drawbacks either. I think he was fine in both of those aspects. And those are his weakest links. The guys in front of him had pretty notable flaws on the other hand, so I could see John moving up at least a spot. The top 3 are basically second in my eyes at your second open show is pretty good. John is a really smart guy too, and he seems to be making steady and noticeable improvements. And he never comes in off, so I expect him to do well in this division. And he's going to try again very soon in just a few weeks at the Vancouver Pro. Taking a surprise runner-up spot was Quentin Urea. I gotta be honest, I didn't expect this going into the show. I had Quentin in like 5th, maybe 6th in my own predictions because of that poor New York Pro showing, and then of course leaving his coach abruptly. I thought he was on track to do mildly better placing wise at best, but I was wrong. He definitely got bigger from New York. Some of his body parts look completely different, and he said he weighed about 10 pounds more than he did in New York at Toronto, and it showed. However, I felt that he did get softer compared to New York, especially in the upper body, and his muscle isn't that mature yet, so he had a very soft look to his upper half. But that shape and structure definitely won the judges over. You don't really know how big Quint is until he gets into a lineup. Like, he says he's 6'1", but there's just no way. He looks way taller than that, and he takes up so much space on stage. He was very impressive. My eyes were drawn to him at every turn. And his stage presence was better too, which helped him command even more attention. Overall, this was definitely part of a solid redemption arc, even though I may not agree with his placing. Placing second in this lineup as a newer guy is impressive and a big step up from his last placing at the New York Pro. And just like that, Quint is rebuilding his hype, if it even left. He will certainly need more size and maturity going forward. His problem is still the same, but this showing gave a lot of people, including myself, a little hope that he can make that happen. And taking home the 2024 Toronto Pro Champion title was Akeem Williams. Akeem has done this show before, but he finally secured the title this time around. And this was a pretty good Akeem. After 2022, people would have told you that he was done, and his placings reflected that. But now in 2024, he's brought some fantastic packages and seems to be pretty consistent. He was good at the Arnold Ohio, but the final specifically. Then he moved up in placings at the Arnold UK, and now he's won a pro show and is going back to the Olympia. This was the older Akeem we're used to, but based on this new trajectory, this is not just an old Akeem, it's more like a new one, a current one that doesn't drop the ball constantly. He still has those great power shots like the front double, the side shots, and the most muscular. Now the back was still lacking. The rear lat spread was okay, but the rear double is just bad, and it will definitely be that way until he retires. But in this lineup, no one really had a stellar back and was also close enough to expose him with it. John had a good one, but he was down in third. And Quint's back, while better for sure, wasn't really enough to knock Akeem out on that alone. And with Akeem's great structure, thickness, muscle maturity, and better conditioning, he was able to beat Quint and the rest of the lineup. I hope this is what Akeem keeps bringing because this is great. Not to mention, when he's looked similar to this, he's been 6th at the Olympia before. This was definitely one of Akeem's better packages ever, and it was good enough to win here in Toronto with a perfect score. I want to congratulate Akeem on his win here and the rest of the men's open top 5. Well, that's just about going to do it for me in today's video. Overall, I was pleased with how the show turned out, mainly in the 212 and open divisions. The other ones could have been a bit beefier in terms of the lineups, but we still had some good athletes. Now, I was going to talk about the actual show running, but I think I want to save those problems for another video. What I'm referring to here is how much of a show this was. This show ended up being way behind schedule for one, like 2 hours behind, which is entirely unprofessional. And if you don't know, the live stream was way overpriced. If you wanted to watch the full weekend, including the amateur show and the pro show, it would set you back 90 USD or 120 Canadian. And if you just wanted to watch the pro show, it was still 45 USD. That's right, the amateur show was the same price as the pro show. Respect to the amateurs, but these shows should not be the same price, especially because the amateurs don't see that money. Heck, the pros really didn't either. The prize money was still the new minimum being 15 grand. Now these problems aren't exclusive to the Toronto Pro, they were just really egregious here and on full display. So like I said, I do want to make a more in-depth video because these problems are intruding on a lot of shows throughout the IFBB. And I want to have a more thought out discussion as well as some potential solutions, so I think a full video would work best here. Anyway, sorry to end on a negative note, but I wanted to tell you everything I thought about this year's Toronto Pro. At least the athletes came in like they usually do and provided us a good show and filled in the gaps. I want to tip my hat to the entire list of Toronto Pro competitors, and with all that said, that's going to do it for me in today's video. What did you guys think of the show? Good or bad? And who was your favorite athlete coming away from this one? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. And if you guys like these types of videos, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more. And finally, with all that said, I'm going to thank you guys for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.
Get Alexia.